What if I told you you don't have to slab your comics? Hands down, the question I'm asked the most is, should I have my comic or comics graded? In this video, I'm going to help you determine 3 things. When I think you should slab your comics, when I think you shouldn't slab your comics, and finally, why the decision is up to you and what I think really doesn't matter. If you're a new comic collector that is just learning about graded comics, or an established collector that is on the fence about third-party grading, then stick around because this video is for you. For the purposes of this video, I'm not going to dive into the CBCS versus CGC debate that rages on in every other corner of the internet. Both companies have their pros, both companies have their cons. Choose your own adventure when it comes to deciding which company to send your books to. If we're just meeting, my name is Drew Stewart. I'm the owner of Como Comic Books, a Columbia, Missouri-based comic book vendor. On our YouTube channel, we focus on bringing you the best tips and tricks to help you take your comic collection to the next level. So if you're interested in comic book collecting and comic investing related content, be sure to stick around for more of that. Now, let's get into today's topic. Today's letter reads, Dear Como, should I have my comic graded? Signed, the Undecided Collector. Well, collector, the answer to your question is it depends. There's a wide variety of reasons to have a comic book professionally graded. Some of these are, the book is a key. You have a high-grade copy and you want to protect the book from future damage. Conversely, maybe you have a low-grade copy and you want to encapsulate the book to prevent further damage. Maybe the book holds sentimental value to you and you want to have it slabbed so that you can display it. The list goes on and on. For myself and Como's inventory, the first thing I consider is, will having this book graded increase the value enough to offset the added expense and time put into the grading process? Oftentimes, I find that the smaller but faster return of selling a book raw is better for me. Next, I look at it as, is this book valuable enough that, a half grade one way or the other can cause a significant swing in value? When dealing with significant keys or more expensive books, taking the guesswork out of the grade helps myself as the seller and a potential buyer focus on negotiating a price, not necessarily wrangling over the grade in addition to figuring out a price. Other things I look at are, is the book a high-grade copy? Are there other factors that need to be considered, such as the increased value of newsstand copies, price variance, or even pedigrees? If you're considering paying to have a raw book graded, ask yourself these questions. First off, why do I think this book should be graded? The first step in this whole process is determining why you want to have the book graded. There is an infinite amount of reasons here. It could be a key issue like we talked about. Maybe it's a super high grade copy of an old book. It could even be a situation where you have a hard to find newsstand copy, a price variant, or a pedigree book that helps drive the value. Or it could simply be you just want to have the book slabbed. That's cool too. Another thing to consider is, are you concerned about restoration? One of the primary benefits of having a book graded is to verify the existence or absence of restoration on your book. When dealing with older and more valuable comics, restoration is a major concern as it impacts the value of the book by a significant amount. If your goal is resale, being able to show a potential buyer that blue or universal label puts you in a much better negotiating position than if you were trying to sell the same book raw. Speaking of that, when I'm considering having a book graded, I'm thinking about, am I going to sell this book? Selling a graded book is nice, as by having the book graded, the seller and the buyer have a firm grade for the book, and the price can easily be set based on previous sales of books in the same grade. When you're dealing with raw books, the margin of error for grade and price is a bit wider, which adds another variable in coming to terms for the sale of your book. If you're considering selling the comic in question and you want to make sure you're able to get the best price out of your book, I recommend having the book graded. However, be mindful of the gap between raw copies and graded copies. It's not uncommon for raw, high-grade copies, such as near mint minus or near mint copies of a book, to sell for similar values as graded 9.2 or 9.4 copies. And this may be true of lower grades as well, so keep an eye out for that. The second question you need to ask: how does having this book graded help you accomplish your collecting goals? Another reason to potentially have your books graded is to accomplish a collecting goal. Is your goal to collect nothing but graded comics? If so, and you have a raw book, it's fitting that you would want to have that raw book graded to fit in with the rest of your collection. Maybe you got a good deal on a raw book and you want to flip it for as much as you can. In that case, grading the book also makes sense. But if you're not strictly collecting graded comics and you don't intend to flip the book, don't feel like you absolutely have to have your book graded. The third question you should ask yourself is having this book graded worth the time and money it will cost? CGC recently raised their prices. CBCS hasn't raised their prices, but their services are still not inexpensive. The more valuable book you have, or the faster you want your book back from being graded, the more it is going to cost you. Currently, CGC's turn times range from 3 business days for the walkthrough tier, which costs 3% or a minimum of $150 per book, to 129 days for their economy tier, which costs $33 per book but has a $400 value limit. Currently, CBCS's turn times range from 1 day for the 1-day tier. I know, it's not just a clever name, right? At a cost of 2.6% or a minimum of $130 per book, up to 4 to 6 weeks. So let's just call it 30 business days as worst case for the modern, expanded, and consumer tiers, with value limits of $250, $250, and $400 respectively. The pricing for those tiers ranges from $18 to $34 per book, but you can save a few bucks if you have an annual membership. Now, look at the pile of books you want to have graded and do the math. Check your calendar and your wallet to see if you have the time and money it will take to further invest in your books. Or would you rather just collect or sell the book raw as it currently sits? The choice is yours. Once you've answered all of these questions, you should have your answer. If it makes sense for you and your collection, get those submission forms ready. If it doesn't make sense, that's okay too. In my opinion, the main reason to have a book graded is to remove the uncertainty about restoration and grade from the equation when selling or trading a book. With that in mind, if you don't intend to sell or trade a book, then really having it graded is unnecessary from my perspective. If you're getting value out of the video so far, help the channel out by clicking the like button. If you haven't already, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel as well. We're on a mission to hit 10,000 subscribers in 2021, and we need your help to get there. We've recently announced our 10,000 subscriber giveaway, so stay tuned to the channel for details on how you can get signed up to win a Hex X Jim Lee collector's backpack as we draw closer to 10,000 subscribers. And now let's get back to the content. Ultimately, I'll boil it down to this. It's your book and your collection. If you want to slab the book, slab the book. If you don't want to slab your book, then don't slab your book. Don't let the fear of other people's opinions be the driving force behind how you manage your collection. If you don't want to slab your books, I promise that you'll be able to get some nice other books with all the funds you'll save in grading fees. If you decide to slab your books and you pull a really nice grade on a book you're looking to flip, then you'll probably be able to pick up some other nice books after you sell that newly slabbed book as well. It's all up to you. As always, I encourage you to collect what and how you want to collect, as it remains your collection, your time, and your money. The most important thing to consider is your satisfaction with your collection. Comic book collecting was a popular and successful hobby long before third-party grading services came around. CGC began grading comics in the year 2000. That means from Action 1 to the first CGC graded comic, there were 62 years of the collecting hobby that flourished. There is nothing wrong with collecting raw books, and the hobby was literally built on it. To put it in the simplest terms, third-party grading is not a necessity for collecting comics. Your books don't need to be encapsulated for your collection to have worth. And being a raw collector does not make you less than a 9.8 purist. In fact, I'll go as far as to call out third-party grading as a source of toxicity in the hobby. We all know that anytime we assign a grade or a score to anything, competition starts to creep in. Simply don't be that guy. Collect comic books, not third-party grading labels. If you have a higher grade copy of a book than another collector, congratulate them on having or acquiring a great book. You clearly thought it was a great book yourself, or you wouldn't have bought it. Everything in life doesn't have to be a pissing contest, especially not hobbies that are meant to be fun. For me personally, I only slab major keys, and my primary reasoning for slabbing those keys is that I might drop dead someday and I want to make dealing with my collection as simple as I can for my wife. I like slab books, but I have no desire to have a collection of nothing but slabs. You can't read the house ads inside of a slab. You can't smell the smell of Silver Age comic paper and ink inside a slab. They have their purpose, and I'm good with that. Collect responsibly, and I'll see you all in the next one.